Hi, I'm Joshua Lowman and welcome to Alaska Filmmakers, a program dedicated to exploring the many talented individuals working in the Alaskan film industry. Today we have with us Claudio Oakley, a writer and director working in the local market. Welcome, Claudio.
Hello.
So tell us, what first got you into film?
I didn't get into film directly. I started wanting to write, and I wanted to be a novelist. But it was one of the earlier films I've seen. I'd seen films for pretty much all my life, but one of the earliest films I remember seeing was Grifters. And it was after that that I just realized, well, you know what? I like writing, and I want to write genre fiction. I want to write crime. But I want to have that punch. I want to have that kind of visceral kind of thing that you can get from film. And ever since then, it's been pretty much not looking back.
What was the first thing that you wrote that got made?
The first thing I wrote that got made was actually a script. It was actually untitled, but it was later called Bittersweet. And that was my first genre story. It was actually a horror story. And I made that down in Austin as part of it was actually part of a film class that we were taking. So the objective was to actually write 5 minutes. So I sat down and wrote the script, and it turned out to be 50 minutes. And this is something people who know me will know, that I can't do anything really short. So essentially, basically, we got it down to 5 minutes, and because I wrote it, I got to actually be on the crew. So I was assistant director, and that was the first thing.
Being the assistant director on that, was that something that you enjoyed, or something that made you decide not to do that anymore?
Yeah, I didn't care for it. You know, it was actually something that really I'm not saying that being an assistant director is bad, but it's just something that it just didn't appeal to me. And I think part of that is that I didn't have the sense of control that I knew somewhere innately that I wanted. So I kind of steered away from it. I decided, okay, well, I'm just going to be a writer. Maybe that's what I'm going to do. I have all kinds of control, and then, you know, once I write the script, you know, hopefully I'll sell it, and then it'll just be away from me, and I won't have to worry about it anymore. So that's pretty much what I did after that, until only actually very recently when I decided, well, now I want to be able to I want that sense of control to make my own stories.
Tell me about the first movie you made.
Well, that was Murder in the Blood. And that's you know, my firstborn. That's what I consider to be my first film. So as much as I appreciate Bittersweet, I didn't have that sense of control. Obviously, I wasn't directing it. So Murder in the Blood was for me it's my pride and joy. I mean, I love it. So basically with that, what I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of create a dreamlike, atmospheric kind of thriller. And I had a lot of cues from, you know, different kind of films that I wanted to emulate in some way. I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to do that. So Murder in the Blood was actually sort of my way of figuring out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it.
You wrote and direct, so you got a lot more control in that one.
Yes.
Do you think you achieved your vision that you were looking for in making that? Or?
That's a good question. I achieved a vision. I don't know if it was necessarily my vision, but it was something. I achieved something. And you know, and it's really funny actually, because it's sort of like the title "Murder in the Blood" actually comes from a quote from Freud, it being about dreams. I thought that was appropriate. And you know what they say about Freud, of course, is that, you know, take him or leave him. At least he gave you something to agree or disagree with, and that's sort of what Murder in the Blood was for me. It was a starting point. So it was basically a way for me to, and this is all important. It was a way for me to actually look at it and say, oh, okay, all right, well, I'm doing this kind of, you know, this is good. This needs to go. And, you know, of course, also it was a huge lesson in keeping things short.
Coming up from Austin, what brought you up from Austin? What got you up to Alaska?
Well, I didn't come directly from Austin to Alaska. I'm from New England, I'm from Connecticut. So I was in Austin for a while, and then I went back to Connecticut. And that's where I'd been for approximately 6 years. And I decided, okay, well, you know, there have been some life events, some changes, whatever, and I decided, okay, well, I'm going to go back to school. I don't love school, but I figure, well, all right, I like the idea of the whole structure, you know, kind of thing, where it's basically, if I want to do something creative, it'll be something where I write a paper, and it's not just for my gratification, but I'll actually get a grade for it. It'll amount to something. So I came up here, and I'd been here for not very long until I realized, no, you know what, I got to make a film. This is it's just nagging at me. So I figured maybe the first thing I should do probably is you know, I have certain resources at my disposal. Well, I mean, I know I can write my own script and do my own things, but the whole idea of producing was a daunting thing ahead of me. So that's how I actually got involved in theater. So I actually was doing theater before I got into film. And the first thing I did is kind of my way of actually getting in touch with the acting community in Anchorage was actually to stage manage. And so I stage managed 2 plays, and that's what led me to Murder in the Blood.
So you did some stage managing. You've also done some stage directing?
I did, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, there were a lot of unique challenges because you don't have a camera. And so while the audience are all the cameras, you can't control what they see or how they see it. So I enjoyed it a lot, though, and I really like working with actors. And you know, and the whole process really for me has actually been, well, how do I want to direct? What kind of director do I want to be? Do I want to be one who caters most mainly to actors? And I like that. And I also like being a technical director. I'm still figuring it out. So,
tell me about your next project.
Well, I actually I have what I consider to be 3 in the queue, but the next one, the first of the 3, is a short film called Hell Yeah. And for me, it's sort of, as much as I love thrillers, as much as I love horror, my first love is the fugitive couple genre, or subgenre of crime. So, you know, movies like Bonnie and Clyde, The Getaway, They Live by Night. This is sort of Pro Le Fou. This is, you know, this is my genre. This is my favorite genre. So, Hell Yeah essentially is how the young couple, the young dangerous couple, actually meet, and there are zombies involved.
What about the other one, the slightly longer one? I believe it's kind of a cut down feature that
yeah.
will work its way kind of there at some point?
Yeah, oh, sure, absolutely. Betty and Veronica. Betty and Veronica is sort of, I'd always wanted to do a story about con artists. And so this was sort of like Betty and Veronica was, the first story, the short, is how Betty and Veronica meet. For that, I was kind of, this is sort of a throwback to old kind of noirish kind of pictures. It's really something that actually will blossom into other stories. I like the idea of actually kind of creating not necessarily a serial, because this isn't for TV, but something like a story that I can return to over and over and over again. And that's sort of how I see Betty and Veronica.
How would you compare your experience making film in Austin to making film in Alaska?
It's different, but the differences are not bad. Austin has a sort of psychology to it, to the filmmaking community, where when you say film, everybody will be listening. All you have to do is just drop the word film. I'm making a film. Everybody's there. And I'm not saying that Anchorage doesn't have that. But the thing is that Austin has this infrastructure, you know, where it's basically, it's seeing itself as the next Hollywood. It's gearing up to be the next Hollywood. And what I love about film now is that, of course, it's so grassroots that any community, any city can get there, can achieve that. I see that happening in Anchorage, actually, and you know, and that's really exciting. So I'm not saying that Austin has what Anchorage doesn't have or can't have, but I just see it as Austin being where Anchorage is going.
So when you're starting a new film or a new script, what's kind of your process on writing? Do you think of them as 2 separate things?
No, I don't. And you know, and it's a really funny thing because this is just, it's a hangover from this earlier misconception I had probably when I was much younger, when I thought that directors wrote what they did. All directors wrote their own screenplays. And so I assumed, well, if I want to direct, I'm going to have to, you know, write my own material. And that actually kind of made sense for me anyways, because nobody was knocking down any doors to actually, you know, get me to, you know, direct their stuff. One of the things that was a big shot in the arm for me was my discovery of the French New Wave, where the idea is that the director is the author. And so I still put the 2 together. I mean, and I like the idea that there are directors who will do other people's stuff. I like the idea of collaborating. But for me, it goes back to, maybe it doesn't completely go back to control, but it does go back a little bit to control in the sense that I like the idea of having complete control over my ideas. I like the idea of, oh, okay, well, I want to create this feeling, I want to create this mood, I want this atmosphere, and what's conducive to that? And usually I'll think in terms of genre. So genre will be sort of like the language in which you can communicate these ideas. So if you wanted to do something like something about mad love, like this kind of slightly surreal kind of thing, then The Fugitive Couple is perfect for that. So I may start with sort of a very, very subtle idea, like a mood or something like that, and then choose to work within this style, and then write it.
What kind of advice would you give to an aspiring filmmaker, someone else out there ready to step in?
The best advice I would say would be, love film. Wake up, eat, breathe, drink, sleep, film. This is one of those things where it's okay to be monomaniacal. I mean, this is like one of those things where, you know, being single-minded is an asset. It's a virtue. So with that in mind, I would say love what you're doing and cultivate a sense of taste, of style, know what you want to say and how you want to say it. And once you have all that, if you want to move into the technical side, which I should be doing a little bit more of, do that, and then you will become an unstoppable machine. So when you see those auteurs or those directors who have are very single of mind and of purpose, and actually have their own specific style, their own voice, they've cultivated that voice, it didn't come out of nowhere, then when you see those people, I mean, those are the filmmakers you want to pay attention to.
Thank you, Claudio. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Alaska Filmmakers. We'd like to thank our host, Out North Theater, and our guest, Claudio Oakley, for speaking with us today. If you'd like to learn more about Claudio, you can find links and contact information on our website, alaskafilmmakers.com. Thank you for joining us, and remember, everyone has a story to tell.